And frankly, when people sit around and say things like, oh, we're happy because now we feel safe, I don't know who feels safe in this country except for the white supremacist, because I specifically as a black woman definitely don't feel safe. And frankly, my colleagues have been real nice to you today, and I applaud them, but I don't have the same demeanor because I know that multiple colleagues on this side of the aisle have faced death threats. In fact, somebody tried to kill one of my colleagues. And frankly, I don't know if this FBI or under your leadership, if those people would have been caught. I don't have any confidence in you. And if we start talking about the reasons that I lack confidence, we could start with you not just wanting to acknowledge some simple facts. Simple facts like the vast majority of the threats are coming from right-wing extremism. And I know my colleagues have tried to stress this, but I decided that I would maybe do it in a different way.
You have to see this. Liberal Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett absolutely lights into Kash Patel, the Trump-appointed FBI director, and exposes the truth about what loyalty to one man is doing to our nation's top law enforcement agency. This is one of those moments where you realize just how much is at stake when political loyalty is placed above competence, integrity, and the safety of everyday Americans. Before we dive in, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss the kind of coverage that calls out corruption and holds power to account.
Man, oh man, there has been so much today, and I truly don't know where to start. So I'm just going to make sure that we start off with a few facts. So a couple of facts that we need to make clear for everyone is that, number one, Director Christopher Wray, when he was appointed to be the head of the FBI, was appointed by Donald Trump. Now, I will agree that I definitely take issue with a number of decisions that Donald Trump makes, especially when it comes to the people that he decides to appoint to very important positions, including this one, because I did have to make sure that I wasn't going crazy. But when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining, yet we are supposed to believe that
That's
you are
false.
the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question. Now, what I want to go through is to talk about why you are a failure and why, honestly, we just need to tell you bye-bye. I know that you got a little upset and you put on your show for your boss because it seems like you're trying to save your job when it came to talking to Senator Booker yesterday. But let's go through some of your failures. So before you were even confirmed, and I think one of my colleague from Georgia, pointed out that you were already targeting career officials so that you could direct illegal firings. Mind you, these cases that you were so upset about, which are the ones tied to Trump, the cases came through his handpicked FBI director. And frankly, when people sit around and say things like, oh, we're happy because now we feel safe, I don't know who feels safe in this country except for the white supremacist, because I specifically as a black woman definitely don't feel safe. And frankly, my colleagues have been real nice to you today, and I applaud them, but I don't have the same demeanor because I know that multiple colleagues on this side of the aisle have faced death threats. In fact, somebody tried to kill one of my colleagues. And frankly, I don't know if this FBI or under your leadership, if those people would have been caught. I don't have any confidence in you. And if we start talking about the reasons that I lack confidence, we could start with you not just wanting to acknowledge some simple facts. Simple facts like the vast majority of the threats are coming from right-wing extremism. And I know my colleagues have tried to stress this, but I decided that I would maybe do it in a different way. Number one, I have a couple of UCs. Kim Buck, one of multiple Republicans receiving death threats for voting against Jim Jordan as House Speaker.
Without objection.
Another one, Republican lawmaker says she received death threats after voting against Jim Jordan in Speaker's race.
Without objection.
In addition, there was another one from another colleague who now is leaving Congress because they said that they were calling his wife anonymously and threatening her life to the extent that she ended up sleeping with a firearm.
Without objection.
Okay, so here's the deal. How are we supposed to have confidence when you're sitting up here telling the Senate yesterday that it will take you 14 years before you can get the FBI fully staffed to do their jobs? You're also now redirecting resources so that they can go and play ICE agents on the streets. You're getting rid of your most qualified people. And even when it came down to somebody that you consider to be a friend, you were posted up having some fancy dinner to the extent that you posted not only once erroneously, you posted twice erroneously as it relates to catching somebody, and then you want to go and say, let me take a victory lap, because honestly, if it wasn't for parents deciding that they were going to turn in their child, it seems like y'all wouldn't have got there, even though he literally confessed online. So I'm confused about what it is that the FBI is doing, except for trying to put on a show for The Apprentice, or whatever you want to call him. The day after all of this took place, there was domestic terrorism that was taking place at HBCUs. They were targeted. Yet I didn't hear anything from the FBI about what was going on. And again, black people kept saying, how did we end up in this? Because the numbers are so very clear that white supremacy is a problem. And honestly, I've not heard anything out of you today that makes me believe that you're going to do anything about the white supremacy problem. The one that is leading to children being killed, children being shot, as well as members of their community as they're worshiping in their churches.
The time of the gentlelady has expired. If the gentleman would like to respond to any of that. Well, I mean, I'll respond. Kash Patel, as I said when I introduced him, public defender, former prosecutor, top staffer on the House Intelligence Committee, deputy director of national intelligence with the National Security Council, chief of staff at the Department of Defense, and FBI director. I think that's a pretty good resume for the guy who's now running the top law enforcement agency in our country. And we've seen all the stats that he's given to the committee on how much better they're doing at getting the bad guys than the previous guy was doing. With that, I recognize the gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I think you're witnessing some auditions, clickbait auditions for the Academy Award for my Democratic colleagues. We'll see how they fare as they're on MSNBC later on today. But do you care, before I launch into my line of questioning, to respond to Ms. Crockett from Texas on that very elaborate and theatric display?
Here's what I've learned in my government service. I don't give a damn what they say about me as long as I'm succeeding in the mission. We're succeeding in the mission because the men and women of the FBI have never been empowered to do more work and to hit the streets harder than by President Trump's authorities and resources he's given us. And so all I care about is that we are capturing more child predators than ever before, taking more drugs off the streets than ever before, that we are capturing murderers at a significantly historic rate, and we're delivering this country the lowest murder rate in recorded history. That are facts.
Watching Crockett speak, it's impossible not to feel the weight of reality. She's laying bare what many of us have suspected, but maybe haven't seen spelled out so plainly, that under Patel's leadership, the FBI is prioritizing political loyalty to Donald Trump over its constitutional duty to protect all Americans. And make no mistake, this isn't just a partisan gripe. This is about life, death, and the rule of law. Crockett starts by talking about death threats, real threats, not rhetoric, not exaggeration, but actual attempts to intimidate members of Congress and their families. And she doesn't hold back. She says clearly that she has no confidence that Patel or his FBI could have stopped these threats. And if you take a moment to let that sink in, it's chilling. A lawmaker acknowledges that people have been targeted, threatened, even nearly killed, and the agency that's supposed to protect them? She doesn't trust it under its current leadership. That's not partisan theater. That's a statement that should make every American pause. Then she hits Patel's qualifications, or lack thereof. She calls him the least qualified FBI director in history, and she's right. Unlike every other director before him, Patel never served in the FBI. His resume is political staff work, largely tied to Trump and his allies, not investigative experience or law enforcement. And yet here, he is running the most powerful domestic law enforcement agency in the country. Crockett doesn't sugarcoat it. She frames it for what it is, loyalty to one man being valued over competence, over credibility, over public trust. And that's a problem for every single American who expects their government to operate fairly, safely, and effectively. The part that really hits hard is how she exposes the consequences of this kind of leadership. Before Patel was even confirmed, he was reportedly targeting career FBI officials for politically motivated firings. That is not how the FBI is supposed to work. The FBI is supposed to be an institution devoted to justice, not political purges. Crockett points out the real-world consequences of this mismanagement, focusing on communities under threat. Black Americans, immigrants, and even Republicans who dared to vote against Jim Jordan for House Speaker have been targeted with death threats from right-wing extremists. Yet Patel has downplayed these threats and failed to prioritize them. That's not incompetence. It's a dangerous neglect of duty. She also calls out how FBI resources are being misallocated. Instead of focusing on domestic terror threats, Patel is diverting agents to act as IC officers, enforcing political priorities instead of protecting communities. She doesn't stop there. She points out the absurdity of Patel taking premature victory laps over arrests that were only successful because parents turned in their own child. That is incompetence dressed up as achievement. And when it comes to serious issues like domestic terrorism at HBCUs, Patel's FBI seems absent. Black communities continue to face threats from white supremacists while the Bureau under Patel's leadership looks the other way. Crockett's critique is about more than just Patel. It's about what he represents. Loyalty to Donald Trump above all else. And that raises a larger question for every American. Can we trust the FBI to defend democracy when the director owes his position to one man, not to merit, experience, or public service? Her words are a wake-up call. The stakes here are life and death, and they're about the integrity of the institutions we rely on to keep us safe. Then, of course, Patel's response is telling. He brags about arrests, drug busts, and child predator cases, but he completely ignores the core critique that the FBI under his leadership is failing to protect communities from the very real threat of right-wing extremism. He openly states that he doesn't care what Congress thinks about him as long as his mission succeeds. But what mission is that? Protecting the American people or protecting Trump's agenda? Crockett's challenge to him exposes a deep and systemic problem: the subordination of law enforcement to political loyalty. This isn't just about one man's incompetence or ambition. It's about the long-term consequences for America. When the leader of the FBI is chosen for loyalty over qualification, when career officials are purged for political reasons, when communities are left vulnerable to real threats, it weakens the very foundations of our democracy. Crockett's words are a call to action. They remind us that accountability, transparency, and vigilance are not optional. They're essential for a functioning, just society. So here's what I think. Congresswoman Crockett didn't just ask hard questions. She held a mirror up to the FBI and to American democracy itself. She reminded us that who we put in power matters, that our safety is not a partisan issue, and that loyalty to the Constitution must always come before loyalty to any individual. And the more people hear her words, the more pressure there will be to demand accountability. That's why this video matters. That's why your voice matters. If you believe, like I do, that the FBI should protect all Americans equally, not just those who align with one political agenda, then we cannot ignore what Crockett exposed. We need to demand leaders who have earned their authority through competence, integrity, and experience, not political loyalty. And we need to amplify moments like this so that those in power are held accountable. So, if you agree, take a moment to like this video, share it, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Let people know that we will not sit quietly while loyalty to one man undermines the safety of millions. And don't forget to subscribe for more content that cuts through the spin and gets to the truth. Accountability doesn't happen by accident. It happens when we refuse to look away. This is our country. This is our democracy. And we owe it to ourselves and to future generations to demand that those in power serve the people, not their political patrons.